This week's 1044 is brought to you by Chevron Delos 600 ADF Ultra Low Ash Diesel Engine Oil. It's time to kick some ash. Diesel engine oils just 5 years ago underwent a fairly significant formulation overhaul industry-wide, and there's another one on deck. Hey everybody, and welcome to the 1044, a weekly webisode from the editors here at CCJ. I'm Jason Cannon, and my co-host on the other side is Matt Cole. In December 2016, all diesel engine oils underwent a transition from CJ4 formulation to CK4 or FA4. Not to get too deep into the science here, but the move from the prior generation to CK4 and FA4 was necessitated by modern engines because, one, they burn a lot hotter than generations prior, and these new engine oils improve wear protection while helping OEMs meet reduced emissions targets.
Emission reduction is really the driving factor here because in 2027, new EPA regulations will further clamp down on what and how much is allowed to come out of the truck's exhaust stack. The Engine Manufacturers Association last March requested the Diesel Engine Oil Advisory Panel to establish a new category evaluation team to evaluate the request. It was approved, and last month, API Lubricants Group officially kicked off the test development phase of PC12.
The request for first licensing date from API is no later than January 1st, 2027, which coincides with the anticipated 2027 implementation date for EPA and CARB HD on-highway regulations. We spoke with Jeff Harmoning, who's the senior manager with the American Petroleum Institute, about those aggressive targets.
That's what the engine manufacturers have asked, that would be API licensed products on the shelf in 2027. The group is ambitious if we can get it done earlier than that, because there's many gates to pass through between now and then. But ultimately, our hope and our expectation is to have API licensed oils meeting the categories that come out of PC12 on the shelf and available right out of the gate in 2027 to help the OEMs meet those new regulations. Oil is no longer oil, as they say. There's a lot more built into an engine oil than just the lubrication side of things, and that's why it's important to stay up on this. API, me personally, we're dedicated to trying to get the word out to as many folks as possible. And granted, we're at an early stage of this game right now for the next diesel engine oil category, but it's important to get the word out, that in fact, oils have become over the course of the last couple of decades, a technology that the OEMs completely rely on to meet their objectives.
With this next generation formulation, Jeff said engine manufacturers are looking for increased oxidation performance since newer engines run hotter, and they want wear test capabilities along with other considerations.
On the fuel economy side, one of the ways that is always popular for getting those emissions down are the addition of lower viscosity. So we're seeing a trend towards that both on gasoline and on the diesel side. So that's the big driver with this category, and other things like elastomer compatibility, which is really something around seal compatibility. There's new materials for seals. And the category needs to be expanded to include those materials. So it doesn't sound like much, but there's going to be a lot of work in the background to get to meet these requirements as we develop the category. Protection of the engine should be first and foremost on everybody's mind. The engine manufacturers have brought this to us, because these are the needs that they feel will need to be addressed in order for them to meet the EPA regulations with their newly designed engines going forward in 2027. So it's very important for the folks listening to the podcast that are concerned about this, that it's not all about fuel economy. It's also about having a more robust oil that can last longer, can handle the high temperatures better, and that's whatever your engine manufacturer in the future recommends is something that should be followed to the T.
Getting the okay to proceed with the development of PC12 was just the first hurdle, Jeff said, but now the real work starts.
The test development side is where the real work goes on in the background. This is the much longer stage. This is developing and proving out these these new wear tests, for instance, providing precision matrix testing for those tests. How it really boils down, with respect to the development of the category is, each of these tests can be started at different times. We've got a few tests that are ready to go right out of the gate in terms of getting the precision matrix testing done, for instance. This is, it's going to be a series of gates for each of these tests so that ultimately, as we get closer to nearing the end of the category, there's a discussion of what are the chemical limits that will be required for each of these tests. We have engine tests and we have bench tests. It's the engine tests that are certainly take longer to develop. These are tests where you're running oils in very strenuous conditions on a test stand, and then that engine is taken apart, inspected for wear, for instance. So we've got all of these things going on at once that hopefully will culminate, in 2025 or thereabouts, so that we can do the background work of writing that into the API 1509 specification, preparing for licensing by API for these new fluids, and so on and so forth. So a lot of little steps to make one big step, but that last hurdle is clearing approvals with consensus and then going forward with licensing.
With PC12, the current C subcategory will maintain its backwards compatibility, and the new F subcategory is intended to replace FA4. The potential for existing engine tests becoming obsolete will be addressed as needed.
That's right. That split's going to be retained. This is another one of those little steps that have to be decided in terms of what the nomenclature are going to be. Yes, though it hasn't been decided yet, it's far too early in the process, but you might think of the next category, which would be a backwards compatible category to CK4. Whether that's CL4 now, that remains to be discussed, but we will have that split. We'll have the backwards compatible C category to cover CK4 and earlier diesel engine oils. And then on the F side, yes, there will be another F category. The thinking now, and granted, we're early in development and things may change. The thinking of that is that category will outright replace FA4 in terms of the fact that this FA4, the next F generation is considering viscosities even lower than FA4 did originally. Now, instead of talking about XW30 motor oils, we're actually being asked to develop oils downwards of XW20 oils. This would be part of helping to achieve in certain engines this fuel economy that is part of the entire package that the OEMs intend to meet the EPA regulations.
Engine oils have evolved a lot over the last couple of generations, but since so many other things happen on a fluid change, maintenance intervals in many cases haven't. By not maximizing the life of these more advanced fluids, fleets are losing out on plenty of the benefits that they're already paying for. But before Jeff gets into what those are, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor, Chevron Lubricants. Protecting your diesel engine and its aftertreatment system has traditionally been a double-edged sword. The same engine oil that is so essential to protecting your engine's internal parts is also responsible for 90% of the ash that is clogging up your DPF and upping your fuel and maintenance costs. Outdated industry thinking still sees a trade-off between engine and emission system protection, and Chevron was tired of it. So they spent a decade of R&D developing a no-compromise formulation. Chevron Lubricants developed a new ultra-low ash diesel engine oil that is specifically designed to combat DPF ash clogging. Delo 600 ADF with OmniMax technology cuts sulfate ash by a whopping 60%, which reduces the rate of DPF clogging and extends DPF service life by 2.5 times. And just think what you can do with all the MPGs you're going to add from cutting your number of regens. But Delo 600 ADF isn't just about aftertreatment. It provides complete protection, extending drain intervals by preventing oil breakdown. Before, you had to choose between protecting your engine or your aftertreatment system, and now you don't. 600 ADF from Delo with OmniMax technology, it's time to kick some ash.
It supports enhanced durability of engine. It aids in, of course, meeting the regulations that are handed down. But in the long run, there is a potential for reduced cost of ownership, whether that's through extended drain intervals, whether that's through keeping the engine up and running for longer periods of time, and not having downtime due to using using engine oils that are perhaps a degree of performance older, shall we say. In addition to that, the things being considered for this category are, quite frankly, things that are going to have a net benefit on the environment for those that for those folks that are environmentally conscious, the fleets that may be environmentally conscious. All of this really boils down to the robustness of the oil that will come out of PC12 when we reach the finish line is a net benefit effect on consumers, on the environment alike.
Jeff might have dropped a pretty scary number earlier, XW20. Fleets often shy away from viscosities that low, even if it's compatible with their engine, and many motor carriers were dragged reluctantly to even 5W30.
I cut my teeth out of working for an auto parts store in high school back in the mid 90s. And I remember the oils that I used to stock on the shelves there. 1540 was predominantly what I was carrying back from the back room to the front shelves on the diesel side of things. And if you, just for comparison purposes, I walk into a local parts store here now, and it's incredible. It's very evident that you can see the trend towards lower viscosities is here to stay, both from a gasoline engine oil, diesel engine oil perspective. And that trend is going to continue certainly into the new category. I think we can all agree that things are moving at a very fast and interesting pace, given the last couple of years, in every industry. So who knows what's around the next corner?
PC12 formulations will see oil manufacturers play with their base stock and additive packages to match the technology strapped to the new trucks.
I think the biggest challenge and the biggest difference, although you won't maybe notice it from the consumer side, are that these oils are being asked to operate at higher temperatures, and therefore there's a whole host of things that need to be taken care of, both from a base oil and from an additive side. And additionally, these requests for new wear test development, these are, in terms of a challenge, these wear tests are going to be certainly some of the more challenging aspects of the new category to see through.
That's it for this week's 1044. You can read more on ccjdigital.com, and as always, you can find the 1044 each week on CCJ's YouTube channel. And if you've got questions, comments, criticisms, or feedback, please hit us up at 1044trucking@gmail.com or give us a call, 404-491-1380. Until next week, everybody stay safe.